We are live. Hi, guys. Welcome, 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 everybody. I have got an interview here with one hell of a lady. We have got the amazing Kylie Mort, co-author for our book, Empowered Women Empowering the World. Welcome, Kyles.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming in today, Kylie. We have we've got so much in common, you and I. Mental health and children and positive mindset is all our jam, yours and mine. So you and I can talk all day. In fact, we do quite a lot.
Yeah.
But I've got it here and I'm going to read it to you guys. Kylie's chapter in the book is it is the most beautiful read because, well, she's a literature teacher. She's an English, year 12 English teacher, and she is a poet, and she writes so beautifully. It's absolutely beautiful to read. It like it far surpasses what I can write. I can guarantee you that. But Kylie's favourite quote is "Be the change you wish to see in the world" by Gandhi, and I think that is exactly what you are. You are exactly the change that you wish to see in the world.
I try to every day.
You are amazing. The people you empower, the children and parents now that you empower, and business owners that you empower in the work that you're doing is truly phenomenal. So for more than 17 years, Kylie has been supporting the growth and development of young people, particularly mothers and daughters now. She's niched it right down, facilitating self-worth, resilience, and empowering individuals to overcome the challenges of an ever-changing modern society. So that in itself is just all-time inspirational. I know Kylie now for probably 18 months, and Kylie is warm and caring and passionate and highly sensitive. And you will notice this when you meet, talking to Kylie for 5 minutes flat. And that in there is where her power comes from. It's truly amazing. But above all, I love Kylie's tenacity. She is resilience all over. She gets up and has another crack, falls down and gets up and has another crack. And that in there is why she's so successful in what she's doing now. So after that introduction, I could keep going on and on and on, Kylie, but let's start from the beginning. So you ride horses as well. This is another thing that we've got in common. So Kylie rides horses. And
well, I used to ride horses. I married a man who was highly allergic to horses, actually. So I'm in this long line of horsey family, and now the closest I get to the horses is the neighbour across the road.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But tell me, Kyles, let's start from the beginning because let's start from the beginning. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay.
Where
would you start?
Okay, all right. Let's start from the beginning in that you had a very bad accident when you were 10 years of age, and it left you were told you would never walk again.
Yeah. So my chapter sort of revolves around that story in the sense that for so many years I thought who I was revolved around that story. But just recently over the last 12, 18 months when I've really been getting a lot more information on, the brain and how it works and everything, I've sort of taken a different slant on everything there. But yeah, I come from a long line of show jumpers, actually. My dad was a show jumper. One of his horses was selected for the Olympics. And then we were all show jumpers. The 4 of us kids were show jumpers. I've got 2 brothers and a sister. But yeah, I was 10 when I had a really bad accident. And I've already, it's already been released through the books, blurbs and everything that I was in a coma. I was never supposed to wake from the coma. I was never supposed to be able to walk again. I was never supposed to be able to finish school. All of these you won't, you can't, you won't kind of scenarios popping up over and over again. So now I've really got this strong motto in, it's not that you can't do something, you just haven't found out the way to do it yet. It's sort of the way that I work with my clients all the time now.
Absolutely amazing. So you were told you could never walk again at 10 years of age?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get back on your feet?
Not that long. I remember going from the wheelchair to the leg brace, and then we used to go down to the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne a lot, and so we were training that way because it was actually a brain injury. So through the nervous system and that kind of thing, that the feeling came back gradually. When I came out of the coma, as you know, incidentally, it was nighttime in the hospital. 10-year-old child waking up, not knowing where they are. Went to get out of bed, and my legs didn't work. And you could imagine, like that kind of trauma for a child. And now, you know, through all of my study of being in education and that kind of thing, that kind of trauma gets buried really deep and causes a lot of problems afterwards. So yeah, it didn't take that long physically to be able to put one foot in front of the other again. But along the road, it's been a journey of a lot of compounding traumas and issues, just because, you know, kids are cruel. So you go back to school a little bit different, and suddenly the world has changed. And yeah, it didn't change for the better for a long time.
You were the brunt of quite a lot of bullying.
Yes, definitely. And then through trying to compensate for what I thought that I had to be to move back into my lifestyle, you know, back at who I was before the accident, a lot of very destructive behaviours and that kind of thing would eventuate after that.
It's amazing looking back now, you know, what you do now, but what you've been through is quite phenomenal. So let's run through, just quickly, touch on your there was a divorce, mum and dad divorced when you were 7, and
so yeah, a lot of the time, as I was growing up and through my earlier education through universities and getting degrees in education and that kind of thing, I always thought of the fact that it was the trauma of the accident and the physical disabilities and the social aspects and that kind of thing was what developed certain patterns in my life. But then later on, and it's only since I've been doing some neuro-linguistic programming and stuff in my later training over the last 12, 18 months, that I've sort of looked at the fact that my father and the consequence of not having that father figure playing so much of a role in a young girl's life. So, and definitely through, you know, so the hundreds of children that I've worked with, you know, the different dynamics of societies, different family units, and how family units will work against each other at the detriment of the child so often. And that really just plays such an important role in the child's self-worth and ultimately their strengths to find, you know, a positive pathway.
And then it all stems down to the child's inner self-confidence, isn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. And if you tell a child, like, there's this mentor I have, Matthew Church. He had this really great way of putting it with, when you've got children in that early developmental stage, adults are like magical big people, and they make things appear out of the, you know, they will make a meal appear out of fresh air. They're just like Old Testament gods is what the way he describes. And I really love the way he did that, because when you have very young children, their caregivers are just magical big people. So if you have a magical big person that starts feeding them information that says you're not worthy, you're not loved, they don't want you, that young person must believe it's true, and automatically must believe that everything that magical big person says, because they've got nothing to compare it to. So, and that's what's really struck me with this later training that I've been doing with the development of child mind is, you implant these ideas, and it doesn't matter how strong, resilient, brave that child is as it grows through its adolescence, those messages are still intrinsically within that child. And they will revert back to that thinking all the time because it had to be set in its own truth at that time.
And then even like then as an adult, they then use those childhood beliefs, limiting beliefs that are not serving them now, but it's their default and it's their makeup, isn't it? It's their default. And whenever the sticks are down, they think that about themselves when it isn't true.
Exactly. And so much of, and you touched on the fact that being a writer and a poet, so much of what I want to give to the clients that I work with, the students, the adults, the parents, is I try to write things that are going to help them. I put a lot of stuff on social media about, the one this morning was your focus becomes your reality. Kind of things like trying to just to remind people that where their thoughts go, that's where their reality goes, that's where their perception goes. And if you're battling with these intrinsic beliefs that you've been given as a child that may or may not be positive, you need to, as an older person, as an adult, even in our teenage years, you need to be able to be resourceful in directing your thoughts to the best possible outcomes all the time.
You need to take your adult mindset, put your adult big person's cap on and have a look back and see whether those limiting beliefs or those negative thought patterns that have happened to you as a child, when it's out of our control as a child, isn't it? It's absolutely out of our control. And sometimes our perception of things as a child may be not actually correct. Do you know, like, because we're only a baby, our brains aren't, we don't have the adult perspective. And we can get...
What's been super interesting is the fact that, and I've seen this in so many cases with adult clients that I have, is that we delete, distort and generalize information all the time as we are moving through our perception of the world. So it's not just the fact that as a child we can't see the world properly, it's more the fact that we will all delete, distort and generalize information into our system through the filters that we have. Yes. So if you have filters that are not serving you, you will continually use them. And that's why so much of the time I love working with the adults and working with adults and their children to sort of look at how, as a child, we can't analyze our own thoughts as a child. Whereas what we need to do as we start exploring self-development and a successful mindset is we need to analyze our own thoughts as separate to ourselves. Yeah. And when you start doing that with adults and they go, oh my gosh, I can see that now. I can see that I have been, automatically reaching for this habit loop that has negativity into it. If you get them to analyze the process and change the loop, then they can use that to support their children as well, because then, and it's the ripple effect as it keeps going. You're teaching it to teenagers so they can use it for their studies, teaching it to parents so they can use it with their interactions with their teenagers. It's a ripple effect.
Cool. Hey, so tell me then, give me the duck's nuts on, so when your mum and dad split, mum used to say some bad things about dad.
Yeah.
And let's go from there. Let's run from there. I want to know exactly, because I know the importance of what you're feeding your children. And there are so many women, mothers, fathers, a lot of people divorce nowadays. And it is imperative that this doesn't happen. So tell me that story. So
my history has the cliched, very, very messy divorce where mum and dad hated each other. Children went with mum, and mum vilified dad as much as humanly possible. He was the most evil man in the entire world. And, to be honest, I don't know the truth of a lot of what was said. I don't know if it's true or not, because I haven't delved that far into his history. Lots of people have lots of different opinions. I can't verify it with him anymore because he died. But the thing is, the one thing that I believe now as a mother that a parent should never, ever do is tell a child that an adult doesn't want them, doesn't love them, that it's their fault, to project that kind of responsibility onto a child. And it's not that mum was saying, you know, it's your fault that I left, more to the point where it was our fault that our dad didn't see us. It was that with my siblings and I, you know, he doesn't want you, he doesn't love you, he doesn't need you. You know, he bought you that present just because he's throwing money at you because he doesn't actually want to be near you. All of those kind of ways that parents can manipulate children. And as we were saying, the children must believe that it's true. So I was 7, my sister was 6, my little brother was 4, my older brother was 8. So all in that developmental stage where we believe, I mean, my brother was 8, so he was moving into that next stage of mirroring and that transition, but still believing everything that our parents told us because they told us that. And then, of course, as you know, the stories go, and so much of the time I look at my chapter and think, when I do write the full book, which I will, because oh my gosh, it was difficult to cut it all down to one chapter. It's one of those fairy tales where all of the stereotypical usual things happened, but I didn't happen, you know, I didn't come out the same way. So we had the messy divorce. Then we had the stepfather who hated me. Then we had the, you know, escaping from the family home at a very young age, you know, escaping into the arms of the wrong person, and then him doing the wrong thing by me, and then being lost in a world where, who am I? You know, why is it that I can't hold down a relationship? All of that kind of very negative, you know, problems with males in my life. Because you look at the fact that if you're told from the time you're 7 years old that the hero of your world, and I don't really remember being that age, but I just know that if I look at my 8-year-old daughter now, her hero is her dad.
Yeah.
And I know for your own story that your dad was your hero. So I know, even if I can't remember, that my hero was destroyed. And that had a lasting effect on me for so long. And it wasn't until November 2018 when I got a business mentor who took on that father role, who was just like, yes, you can. In, you know, that the role of a dad where they push and push and push until you just want to punch them, but also that you know that they genuinely care for the result. They're doing it for the right reason. And that was really confronting. That was difficult to deal with. But yeah, it's definitely opened my eyes to a lot more diagnosis of children, of developmental stages in children, and really pursuing that niche that I want to go into with teenagers.
And then all in that went through adolescence, when your prefrontal lobe disappears and you're in those misty years. That's really where you're passionate about, isn't it? Because that's when things really fell apart for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, there was the divorce at 7, there was the accident at 10. Then, you know, I was told I was never supposed to finish school. But then I graduated school from grade 5 and was passed into year 7 at an 11-year-old. So and they had to hold me back and I had to do grade 6. And so all of this, I don't know, brain damage is supposed to make people, you know, less. But for me, I was just like, I just clung to academia and reading. And I think that when you analyze it now as me as an adult analyzing that child, the reason I clung to academia was the consistency and stability of the fact that there was a solution, there was an answer. I could be right, whereas there's nowhere else in my world where I could be right. There was nowhere else in my world that I was enough, that I could do the right thing, that I could interpret the situation correctly. So I went up into year 7 at the local high school, Mansfield Secondary College, and just really, I think the wheels fell off the worst when I got my first serious boyfriend, because then all of these issues I had around male attention and who am I to men clashed with my competitive show jumping, because the show jumping had kept me on the straight and narrow too, because we were competing on the circuit every weekend. We would go to school, we would go home, we'd get off the school bus, we'd work the horses, and then we'd go to sleep and we'd rinse, repeat, and do it again the next day. Go to school, work the horses, go to school, work the horses. Then on weekends, go show jumping, do that for the weekend, then back, and the same thing. So I never had any close connections at school, because I was never part of the netball team. I never was around to hang out after school because I had to go and work horses. So there was all that kind of stuff got into it. And then, it all fell apart when you tried to balance the regimented, lifestyle of you did school, you did horses, you did nothing else. Throw in a boyfriend that the mum and the stepfather despised. My stepfather called him the parasite. A lot. I ended up leaving home, moving in with him. Very bad idea. He was not a good boyfriend. But as soon as they said, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too, you don't ride. Lincoln's not yours anymore. And he was my baby. He was my show jumper. And then, of course, if you say, okay, you're not worthy because your dad doesn't love you. You're not worthy because you're a cripple who limps, because I had to limp. You're not worthy because now we're taking your horse off you too. I just felt like my whole world is just like there's nothing I could do about anything. So then the story gets very dark. And anyway,
and look how you've come out the other side. Do you know, so now what you do is you help, tell us what you do. You help mothers and daughters.
It started out, I was a secondary school teacher.
Yeah.
Then moved into, I was the acting year 12 coordinator at the local school, and just got really disenchanted and upset with the children, the systemization of a system that was failing children, failing individuals. And I couldn't hack it. And so I resigned and started a tuition business, so I could do the one-on-one and make sure that people got personalised support. Because, I was one of those teachers who was there. The cleaners were my best friends. I was there at 7 o'clock in the morning.
One of those really good teachers.
Yeah. So I was a 24/7 year 12 teacher for business management and English. And then, so after I resigned, I was also the business mind behind my husband's diesel mechanic workshop. Growing those businesses for the next decade. Then in November 2018, met Aaron, got a business mentor, looked at my 2 companies that I'd been growing for a decade and just went, all right, let's do this big time. And so they grew exponentially. But I it was 12 months of growth in those 2 businesses, and then opening the third business, the Mort Business Services, where I wanted to, again, move, using my talents in business management, in tutoring, in performance coaching individuals, trying to put all of that together to collaborate and grow everybody. Because I just want everyone to succeed. I'm just like, we can all do this together. I will help you.
It comes from your big heart, Kylie.
Let's all do it. And then it was November last year when Tammy got us interested in this book. And so you can tell when you read my chapter in the book, it's talking about I've got the diesel mechanic company, and I've got the tuition company, and I've got the business services company, and I'm building this collaboration, and I'm doing. And I think that being a type A obsessive personality who works from dawn till like I'm one of those people who get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to work, and then get the kids to school and then go to work, and then put the kids to bed and go to work. And I'm one of those people, and I was just burning the candle from both ends so badly. And my husband is sort of in the background going, why are you doing this? Why are you running so fast to do everything all the time? And, because I just want to help people. I just want everybody to live their passion the way that I live my passion. And then Tammy Pike from Empowered Publishing, she took me over to Fiji, and I met Liz Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And I just went, oh, wow. Because I am one of those people who I just radiate masculine energy. Everything's about go and bigger and harder and stronger and more. And I think that's why I really resonated with Aaron, because he's masculine energy and bigger and harder and tougher and stronger. Whereas I met Liz Gilbert, and she is the epitome of feminine energy. And I'm like, Aaron and Liz, and I put their information together. I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Just to have a little bit of that softness, and that calmness, and that focus. And I came back from Fiji in February just going, I really need to slow down and just think about what I'm being so passionate about so many things and so many people. What if I took all of that passion and put it into one thing? And so, Liz had said, you've only got room in your heart, mind, and soul for 5 priorities. Figure out what they are and pursue them to the detriment of all else. I've got, right, I need to niche down. And I was gradually doing that, less staff and that kind of thing. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And then, I did go through, obviously I've been growing these businesses for, over a decade. Well, Tom's business 15 years, my business 10 years. And so there was a grieving process that I went through when COVID just knocked the tuition business for 6. Like, you can't have a tuition business when nobody's allowed in there. But, off the back of that now, I am just so focused and niched down to my passion is teaching. I could talk underwater with teaching. That's why we're friends. We can talk underwater. But if I just focus on what am I best at teaching, and it would be mentoring women. I've just got women who, I have a session with them. And I'm like, did that help? And they're like, oh my gosh, that helped so much. Like just the way that I can get them to think about their thoughts and to focus and that kind of thing. And then teenagers love me. So if I put women and teenagers together, and instead of just being a tutor who's doing academia or just being a performance coach who's doing business, why don't I actually focus on the bit that really, really lights me up, which is about connections, which is about getting them all to live their best selves, to live their truth. And, so if I don't try to teach geometry and algebra and every other thing I can think of and teach every single kind of business style and just teach connection. And so that's what I'm really passionate about now.
Wow. You're brilliant, Kylie. Absolutely brilliant. Because if the connection between mother and daughters is strong, because that's your quiche, if your connection as an adolescent is strong with the major caregiver within it builds, it helps, it grows a deep level of self-esteem, self-confidence, and it makes all the difference in the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I just, and I even write about it in my chapter, that I just wonder how different life would have been if I had that adult who invested in me, who me for me, who nurtured me. Because there was even like I was looking for someone, you know, everywhere. The whole reason, you know, that I went into teaching was because I wanted to be my literature teacher. Because there was a woman who, I love literature. Shakespeare's my bomb. But there was this woman, Amanda Cleland, if you're watching, from Mansfield Secondary College, where she was seeing this young girl destroying herself. And she just sort of looked at me and like, what are you doing? Like, what do you hope to achieve out of all of this? And just really sat me down and made me think about what I was doing. Because the thing was, I was off the rails, something chronic, but I was brilliant at schoolwork. So I would get my straight A pluses and then try to completely destroy myself after hours. Like it was so compatible. And because she saw something in me that I'm like, right, I'm going to be a teacher. I want to do for other teenagers what she did for me. Because maybe if she hadn't sat me down and said something, I wouldn't have gone to uni. Maybe I would have just dumped it all and kept going down that dark path. I don't know. Like you need an adult who's going to be a rock. And all teenagers need a rock, as much as they think they don't. As much as teenagers, you know, they're in that stage of development where they need to be making their own way in the world and finding their own space. Yes. But at the end of the day, they need a rock.
Yeah, they do.
And that's what I want to facilitate, helping, not being everybody's rock, but to make sure that each young person has a parent or a caregiver who is that rock for them.
Educating both of them. Kylie, you're onto something really big here, and I'm delighted that I know you and that I, you know, have insight into what you're doing, because what you're doing is truly amazing. You're absolutely
really. If it's based in passion, I think that, and that's what I tell all of the business clients too. If you're basing your life in something you're passionate about, it's got to succeed. It's bound to succeed, because where you focus is your reality. And that's why, you know, I'm in awe of you also with everything that you're doing with your resilient kids. I love seeing it. I love seeing all of your stuff because it mirrors so much of what I'm doing. Great.
It's absolutely amazing. Kylie, thanks so much for coming in today. You're an absolute gem. I feel so blessed to be part of this book, Empowered Women Empowering the World, with you. It's like an amazing book in that everyday women have overcome more than everyday stuff, like huge adversity, to make an enormous impact in their own lives, their families' lives, their communities' lives, and now globally. It's absolutely phenomenal what you are doing in your life, because so many people can just go, well, you know, like, it doesn't matter, that's somebody else's problem. But people like you, passionate people with big hearts, highly sensitive, highly driven, highly capable, they're the people that make a difference in the world for the positive. And so it's I'm absolutely delighted to be a part of this book with you.
Thank you. Yes, it is very exciting. And I love the fact that we can reach so many people with the book to try to, using words to help people connect with their own truth. Be really effective.
That in there is powerful. Thanks so much, my dear. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.